Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to explore the invisible architecture of the sky, all those classifications that keep every single flight safe and organized. It's this amazing system of highways and zones and rules that are hiding in plain sight. And once you understand it, I promise you'll never look at the sky the same way again.
It's so easy to just look up and see this huge open blue expanse, right? But for a pilot, it is a completely different world. That space that looks so empty to us is actually jam-packed with invisible highways and intersections and zones, all of it designed so carefully to prevent total chaos up there.
And the vast majority of the sky operates under this one system. It's called controlled airspace. And that's where air traffic control, or ATC, provides services to make sure everyone stays safely separated. This whole system is then broken down into different classes, and believe me, each one has its own very specific set of rules.
So to get a handle on all of this, we've got to start with the most basic division in the sky: controlled versus uncontrolled. It's that simple. Okay, so on one side, you've got controlled airspace. That's going to be your classes A through E, and that's where ATC is the boss. Then, on the other side, you have uncontrolled airspace, which is just Class G. In Class G, ATC has no authority, no responsibility. If you can just grasp this simple split, everything else is going to make so much more sense.
Now, let's zoom in on where most pilots really have their first run-in with air traffic control. The areas right around those airports, the ones with the iconic control towers.
And here is a fantastic way to remember this, seriously. Just think, B, C, and D are towered. These are the airspace classes that you will always find around an airport that has an active control tower. So if you're flying along and you see a tower, you know right away you're dealing with one of these three.
And they are definitely not all the same. Class B, that's for the giants. We're talking the nation's busiest airports like SFO or LAX. And its shape is famously called the upside-down wedding cake because it has all these layers. Class C is a step down for other busy airports with a simpler two-tiered cake shape. And Class D? Well, that's the most basic of the three. Just a simple cylinder of airspace around any airport with a tower.
And just to give you a sense of scale here, that Class D cylinder usually goes up about 2,500 feet from the airport. It's a very, very defined zone, and you can't just wander into it.
Okay, so picture this. You're flying along, you see one of these towered airports coming up. You can't just fly right in. So how do you actually get permission to enter that controlled zone? The absolute key is establishing two-way radio communication before you cross that invisible line. This means you call the tower, and this is crucial, they have to call you back using your aircraft's call sign. Think of it like the official handshake. That's what welcomes you into their airspace.
But the rules aren't just about where you are on a map. They're also about what you can see. For pilots flying visually, the weather, and especially the clouds, dictate pretty much everything you can and can't do. I mean, it seems kind of obvious, right? Just don't fly into the big fluffy thing. But there's a huge critical safety reason for these really strict rules that goes way beyond just, avoiding the cloud itself. Here's why this matters so much. Pilots who are flying on instruments can be inside those clouds, totally blind to the world outside. They can pop out of a cloud at any second. So these clearance rules, they're all designed to give visual pilots enough time and space to see that traffic coming and safely get out of the way. So, to fly visually in Class D airspace, the bottom line is you need at least 3 statute miles of visibility. If it's anything less than that, you are on the ground until that weather clears up.
And here are the magic numbers for staying away from those clouds. You've got to stay 500 feet below them, 1,000 feet above them, and 2,000 feet away from them horizontally. Just burn this into your brain. 500, 1,000, 2,000. It creates this vital little protective bubble around your airplane.
Okay, so we've covered all the busy zones around airports. But what about, everything else? This is where the last few puzzle pieces really fall into place. So let's zoom out and see how the final layers complete this whole picture, from the highest highways in the sky right down to the ground. So way, way up at the top, starting at 18,000 feet, you've got Class A airspace. You can think of this as the interstate highway system for airliners and big business jets. Everybody up there is on an instrument flight plan, everybody is talking to ATC, and they're all moving fast. Then, way down at the bottom, usually out in rural areas, you've got Class G. This is the uncontrolled airspace. It's kind of the Wild West of the skies. It starts right at the surface and just goes up until it bumps into whatever controlled airspace is above it. Out here, pilots are pretty much on their own to see and avoid each other. So what fills in all the gaps between the high-altitude highways of Class A and all those airport zones down below? Well, that would be Class C. Honestly, the best way to think of it is as the everywhere else airspace. It's the connective tissue of the entire system. It can start at the surface, sometimes at 700 feet, sometimes at 1,200 feet above the ground. And it's so important because it ensures ATC can provide services even when you're miles and miles away from a major city.
All right, let's bring it all home with a quick recap. The biggest thing to remember, classes A through E are all controlled. Class G is the only one that's uncontrolled. And remember that trick. If you see a tower, you're looking at Class B, C, or D. Class A, that's that superhighway way up high for instrument flights only. Flying into Class D, you absolutely have to talk to the tower first. And no matter where you are, always, always keep that cloud clearance in mind. 500 below, 1,000 above, and 2,000 feet to the side.
You see, understanding all these invisible structures, it isn't just about passing a pilot's exam. It's about seeing the sky in a completely new and much safer way. It really does transform that big open blue into this dynamic, organized, living environment. Thanks for tuning in to the Deep Dive. Fly safe, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Same frequency, same time.